The Republic is one of Plato's most famous works. It is very long, disparate, complex and detailed, so we're only going to go over one facet of it today from books 1 to 4. The question we're going to be worried about is, in a nutshell, do nice guys finish last? As always, Plato frames his work as a dialogue between Socrates and several other characters. In Book 1, they start asking the question, what is justice? And they come up with various definitions, all of which Socrates picks apart. In Book 2, Socrates chats to two characters called Glaucon and Adeimantus. They say that there are three types of good things. Things that are good in themselves, things that are good in themselves and have good consequences, and things that are only good because of their consequences. It seems like justice is only good because of what you can get out of it. It seems like it's type 3. A person who has a reputation for being just gets a certain amount of respect and deference, and in ancient Athenian society, power and influence. But the unjust person gets to enjoy the rewards of being a cheater, so surely the best possible scenario is for everyone to think that you're just when really you're unjust. If you could be a shyster and get away with it, then surely everyone would do that. Glaucon illustrates this with the famous story about the ring of Gyges. In the myth, a shepherd finds a magic ring that makes him invisible, and he uses it to go to the palace, kill the king, seduce the queen, because all women love invisible men, and take over the kingdom. Justice, Glaucon thinks, is just a shackle. It's only good because of what you can get out of it, as is evidenced by the fact that anybody who could get away with abandoning justice, anybody who had the ring of Gyges, would immediately do unjust things. But Socrates maintains that being just is its own reward. Nice guys don't finish last. A person who is just but everyone thinks they're unjust and persecutes them for it is still better off than somebody who is really unjust but everyone thinks they're a saint. Glaucon and Adeimantus ask him to back this up, and they decide to design the perfectly just city, with the hope that if they can figure out what justice is on a big scale, they'll be able to see what justice is on a small scale, and hopefully understand why it's good. The society they end up designing is maybe not the sort of society you'd want to live in. Plato divides his citizens into three big groups: the rulers, the guardians, and the producers. The rulers run the show, the guardians are the army/police force, and the producers make everything: food, clothes, buildings. They do all the real work. And there's a certain amount of mobility possible between the three groups, but the children of each group are brought up to fulfill that role. Like, the children of the rulers are sent to school so they can be rulers, and the children of the producers are taught to be farm labourers and basket weavers, and there certainly aren't any elections mentioned, so Plato's ideal society is an aristocracy. Anyway, Socrates continues that there are 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, moderation, and justice. The city is wise if the rulers are wise. The city is courageous if the guardians are courageous. The city is moderate if everyone agrees that the rulers should rule and there's no proletariat uprising or equality movement coming out of the producers. And the city is just if all the parts agree that they should just do their jobs and that everyone else get on with theirs. Justice isn't its own virtue, it's a balance, a harmony between these 3 other virtues: wisdom, courage, and moderation. And so it is with people. Plato thinks that the soul is tripartite. It has 3 parts: reason, spirit, and appetite. A person is wise if reason is the bit of their soul that controls all the rest. They are courageous if the spirit aids and obeys the reason. Plato saw spirit not the way we might see spirits, but as a kind of animating force. Spirit is the thing that moves you, with a particular link to your emotions. It's the motivating part of your soul that isn't rational. And a person is moderate if the appetite is controlled and reined in by reason and spirit. Appetite is like the bodily desires: food, sex, pleasure, that sort of thing. Just as an aside, we've already got wisdom and courage. If you think of moderation as like control, like power over yourself, then we have wisdom, power, and courage, and this tripartite distinction starts to sound a little bit familiar. And a person is just if the 3 parts of their soul do their jobs without jostling for position. Just like in the city, it's a harmony, it's a balance between the 3 aspects of yourself. So remember, the challenge was to show that being just is good in itself. This shows it. Justice is a harmony between the 3 parts of your soul. The unjust person might get all these material rewards, but at the expense of their internal balance. For Plato, being just is like being physically healthy. Nobody would willingly give that up, so it must be valuable in itself. And that's a lightning-fast summary of books 1 to 4 of the Republic. I skipped over a lot of the details and I left out a lot of stuff and just gave you the basics because it is really long and it is a lot more complex than that, but that's the basic gist of it. And now some quick critical thoughts. You might have noticed that Plato has a habit of pulling really important things out of his arse and then just basing the rest of the system on it. Like this whole idea that there are 4 cardinal virtues. Where did that come from? Why 4? Why are they those ones? And this idea that the soul is tripartite. We might be more inclined to say mind nowadays when Plato said soul, but how does this tripartite distinction fit with the models of modern psychology? And is it true that nobody would give up their physical health or their soul balance for any reason? Like if somebody said, I will give you £1 billion for your non-dominant hand, would you not be a little bit tempted? And a big question that lots of philosophers have worried about, is the analogy between the city and the soul legit? Is justice between people the same as justice inside people? What do you guys think? What do you make of Plato's Republic? Is being just good in itself? Send me your questions, comments, queries and comebacks underneath the video on Facebook, Twitter or by email. Next week we could either do some aesthetics and ask, is beauty in the eye of the beholder? Or we could ask, was the universe designed? Subscribe to join the Philosofans and leave a like if you enjoy the music of Starship! Many, many minds left many, many comments underneath our last episode, so let's see what the Philosofans had to say about Cartesian dualism. Joel Nicola said that existence feels like being inside a body looking out. It feels like there's a split between the two. I'm imagining the little alien guys from Men in Black. Actually, one of the big criticisms leveled against Descartes is that existence doesn't feel like that. When you stub your toe, for instance, it's not like, you know, the captain receiving the damage report in the ship. It's like, it's more direct. It's like, ow, that hurt me directly. If you feel dissociated from your body, then maybe you should talk to a psychiatrist. In any case, how we feel about the mind-body split doesn't necessarily have a bearing on what is the case. Otherwise, we wouldn't need to do any philosophy about it. Dominic Skeenken indulged in a little epistemic skepticism and said that, well, we can't ever really know the properties of a thing, so how come we can use Leibniz's law? Surely Leibniz's law is useless, right? Well, I won't go into a rant here about when it's appropriate to be epistemically skeptical, because I've already posted about that on the Facebook page. I would say that maybe you could say Leibniz's law isn't appropriate here, because if Descartes is supposed to be doubting everything, then how come he's not doubting the veracity of his perceptions about mind and body that he's using to make this split? You couldn't ever say that Leibniz's law was totally useless, though, because it is actually a logical axiom. It's a necessary truth. If you express it in formal logic, it looks like this. That probably looks like gobbledygook to most people, but basically what it means is if two things are the same, they are the same. You can't really get around Leibniz's law without contradicting yourself. Secret World Leader said that everything in the world is physical. Numbers. Jose Maria Ruiz asked, if you copy a song into 2 different devices, haven't you then got like one thing, but it's extended in 2 different locations in space, so it's one thing, but it's got different properties, so surely it's 2 things? I think the key word there is the word copy. In those circumstances, philosophers would say that you've got 2 tokens of the same type. You've got 2 things that are very similar, but they're not actually one thing. Like identical twins, they are identical in the sense of being qualitatively identical, but they're not numerically identical. Ostilabonti said that there's no point asking the question because it has no practical applications. That comment made me really very sad. Truth is always valuable in itself, not because of what you can do with it. That's what philosophy is all about. If anybody out there thinks that truth is only instrumentally valuable and never intrinsically valuable, then feel free to go, because you are breaking my heart. That's all we've got time for this week. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye!